Thanks so much to Wild Grain for sponsoring today's video. I'll share more on them coming up. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth. Welcome back. Today we're going to be doing something that I absolutely feel so strongly about, and that is making 20-minute meals when you don't feel like cooking. It can be so hard to break that cycle of wanting to eat out or eating processed foods and packaged foods, but it's so important as humans to learn to use the food that God's given us to nourish our bodies properly. I know when you don't feel like cooking, it is such a mental game, and overcoming that is one of the most powerful things I think that you can do for your health. I also just got back from taking a really long break over the holidays, and let me tell you that taking a break and just resting your body is so restorative. I feel so much better. I feel like I come back a 2.0 version of myself because I just feel so good from having that rest. And so moving forward this year, that's one of the things I'm focusing on more. Is as a busy mom of 4 kids, I have to learn how to take rest and just slow it down a little bit. And that is where meals like we're going to be making in this video come into play, because when you know how to make these 20-minute meals or 15-minute meals, or even just meals that have minimal ingredients or that you know how to make and you don't have to think about, you can kind of just rest, relax, know you've got it taken care of, you know what groceries to get. It just makes the whole process easier. So today we're going to focus on that, and I'm going to give you guys some delicious, really good, minimal ingredient meals that you can make for yourself, for your family, for meal prep. And I know it always seems like it's going to be really tricky to figure out how to cook these meals, but I promise you, once you learn how to choose your own ingredients and cook those things at home in a really wholesome way, it rewards you in ways you can't even imagine. And all you have to do is give yourself 20 minutes. You'd have to wait 20 minutes to have something delivered or to go get something anyways, so you might as well just give yourself that time, because that way it'll just become second nature to cook all these amazing good for you foods that can really transform your life. And if you're a mom like I am, breaking that cycle not only for yourself but for your kids, so that you're setting them up so in the future they're not running out grabbing all the processed food and fast food, but they know how to put together really easy, healthy meals in the kitchen that taste really good, is gonna come in handy sooner than you think. My 9-year-old, she can already go to the fridge and make herself a healthy lunch anytime she needs to, and those kind of skills are so invaluable to them. So I definitely want to instill that in my kids, and I think it is so valuable to just teach them to be hands-on, to know what to do, and to set a really good example. They come together really fast. I'm going to show you a few little tips and tricks, so let's go ahead and get into this video. Okay, so what I'm making for lunch today is truly such a staple, and I love it because it's one of those things you don't have to do a bunch of grocery shopping for each week. You can just have a bunch of things in your fridge and pantry and then pull it out whenever you need a quick lunch or even a snack. So what I'm making is a tuna salad, but tuna salad can be kind of boring, so I'm gonna kind of switch things up and use a few unexpected ingredients. So I've got a little bit of wild albacore tuna. I'm gonna use some of those, and then you wanna use a good mayo in tuna salad. So I like to use the ones that are made with avocado oil. I buy it usually on sale, or you can find it in bulk in places like Costco, but I love to use avocado oil mayo, and you can also make it really quickly yourself from scratch, but I have this on hand because I bought it on sale, so I'm gonna use it. And then I also am gonna throw in a little bit of sweet corn. This is organic frozen sweet corn. I'm not even gonna defrost it or anything. I'm gonna put it right in there with the tuna. And then this is kind of the fun part of it, but I'm putting in some hot cherry peppers. So I'm gonna dice these up, and they're kind of like jalapenos or pickled jalapenos, but that's gonna add some heat. So kind of like a sweet and a spicy tuna salad, which is so delicious. But if you don't want something that's too spicy, or your kids don't like any heat whatsoever, then you can do like mild banana pepper rings. That's a little bit less heat, but also has like that really good flavor. I love this brand, Jeff's Garden. I get it at my Sprouts, and they have a bunch of stuff like this and pickled onions and all that. So I'm gonna use some of that, and I'm also gonna grab some onion too and put this all together. And if you don't want to dirty up a bunch of dishes or a big cutting board like the one I'm using, then I love using these tiny cutting boards, and they can be put in the dishwasher. That way I don't have to wash my whole cutting board. So I'm gonna chop my onion on here. So I'm starting by just dicing up my onion, and one thing I love to do is to find
different kinds of condiments and just additions to food that make it taste really good without adding a bunch of calories or sugar or anything like that. So I like to find things like onions and all these little condiments I'm using, like the jalapenos or pickled veggies. There's so many different things you can add on the side to just elevate your food in a really healthy way, and that actually has more health benefits to it. So I love this. It adds such a different spin to tuna than we usually have, and I'm not adding anything unhealthy to it in order to do that. So I love that. So I'm just taking my onion and I finely dice that, and then I'm taking a few of these little hot cherry peppers and dicing those up really finely, and then I'll taste it and see if I want to add some more. But I'm also going to go ahead and add in that sweet corn, and since it's frozen, it kind of helps to actually cool the tuna off because it's just from the can in the pantry. So instead of having to put it in the fridge before lunch, it kind of defrosts really quickly. So it's kind of helpful at lunchtime for a quick meal. And then I'm just adding plenty of mayo. You can do it to whatever consistency you like. And if you don't want to use mayo, you could also use sour cream or Greek yogurt, or even just mash up an avocado. So that's totally up to you what you like to do. I like to do what my family likes, so I'm doing mayo today. And then I add a little bit of salt. You don't want to go crazy because tuna's already salty to begin with, but it's literally that easy. And so I made one that's a little bit less spicy just for my littles, and then this batch that's still in the bowl, I'm adding more of those hot cherry peppers too because I wanted to be nice and spicy for me and my husband and the older kids. We love a good kick. I love any kind of tuna salad or chicken salad, but tuna especially, I feel like we should be eating so much more of it because it's so high in omega-3s and really good clean protein, and it's such an easy source of it too. You don't even have to cook it. You just open up a can and you have really good high quality protein right there ready to go. So I'm just putting this over some baby arugula today because that is one of my favorite ways to sneak in those bitter greens like arugula, is to have a really good salad like chicken salad or tuna salad on top of it. And then I absolutely always have to have something crunchy with stuff like this. So I'm taking just a few of my, I think they're date and rosemary crackers anyway, and they're so good just to have a few crunchy bits on top. And then I'm serving that with some of my carrots that I had meal prep this week, and it's actually really good to dip your carrots in tuna salad. It's delicious together because of the sweetness of it. And I'll have a little bit of my hot tea in my big thermos hydro flask, and that is my lunch today. So we have tons of protein, fat, fiber, and a little bit of carbs with the crackers, and this is just a beautiful and delicious, really easy to make lunch.
Okay, tonight for dinner, I'm making a slow cooker recipe, so this is going to be super easy. And even though it doesn't take 20 minutes to actually cook, it only takes a couple minutes to put it together, and then you can pretty much just forget about it. So I feel like this counts because it only takes you 20 minutes or less to put it together. Really, it's like 10 minutes. So what I'm doing is I'm making a French onion style pot roast, and I'll show you how I serve it at the end because I'm going to do something a little bit fun to serve with it. But this is going to be so super easy. So I just have a chuck roast or an Angus roast, whatever kind you want. I buy the grass fed, but you don't have to. That's just going to be really healthy for you. A lot of good healthy fats in that. And then I have some fresh thyme. We're going to do a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. I love that. It adds so much good beefy flavor. I do a little bit of beef broth or a little bit of beef bone broth. I like to buy it store-bought. I love the Kettle and Fire brand because it is 100% grass-fed, and I don't make my own homemade beef broth, so I like to make sure I'm buying a pretty good brand here. And this one has really good ingredients. It's just like how you would make it at home. So I'm going to use a little bit of that, or you can skip that altogether, but I do like to add just a little bit so it's a little bit saucier. And then I'm using different onions here. I've got 2 yellow onions, then I have 2 sweet little Vidalia onions, and I'm going to chop these all up. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of butter in the bottom of the slow cooker, and I'm going to saute those onions down first and get them kind of caramelized, and then I'll put the beef in along with the broth and have everything slow cooked together. And I always get questions about this. This is a green pan slow cooker. It's just a little bit healthier than a crock pot because the insert is different. So I like using this, and it also has a saute function mode on here. So I love that because I can brown meat first or saute veggies in here first. But if you don't have that, you can either just put those onions in raw and let them slowly cook down just like a normal pot roast. That is no big deal. Or you could saute them on the stove first and just put all those drippings and butter into the slow cooker.
In the morning after I finish my workout, my morning routine, I go straight into thinking about what's for dinner. So tonight I'm making this in the crock pot, and so I'm just starting by dicing up 4 onions, and I have 2 of them that are yellow and 2 of them that are Vidalia. You don't want to cut them too thin like I said, so I'm just cutting those up kind of roughly, and I love that this is kind of filling out the meal a little bit in a really wholesome way. It's just super simple, and there's so many health benefits in onions too, so I love being able to use those up. And this just shows you that you can make something absolutely delicious with really minimal ingredients.
Next, I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons of butter. You don't need a lot because we have all that beef that's gonna have its fat rendered, so we don't wanna put too much in here, just a little bit so I can get the onion sauteing. And I'm also gonna add salt and pepper.
I love having those staple go-to recipes that I don't even have to think very much about, and this is one of them. And another thing that is really important to me is having recipes, or even just base recipes, where if I tweak a couple ingredients or I tweak how I serve it, then I have 5 different meals I can make out of it, and this is one of those. So you have your meat in here and this delicious sauce, and there's a multitude of ways that you can serve it. You could serve it just on its own if you want to be more low carb, or you could serve it over pasta or rice or potatoes or even spaghetti squash. So there's a ton of different ways you can serve this and keep it fresh and really make it fit your family. So I sauteed all the onions, and then I browned the meat on both sides, and then I added in some of that beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, and all of that thyme and salt and pepper on the meat. And now I'm just gonna let that cook low and slow all day, and then I'll show you how to finish it.
To go with that slow cooker dinner tonight, I'm gonna use a little bit of fresh pasta that comes frozen just in the freezer. And that's perfect because it's from Wild Green, who is the sponsor of today's video. They're a Bake from Frozen subscription box. So they have sourdough bread and fresh pastas and artisanal pastries. You can get that sourdough without all of the hard work and time that goes into that, because it goes from freezer to table in under 25 minutes. They even have a plant-based and a gluten-free box now too, which is really exciting. And something that I love about it that I think makes it really special for a subscription box is that it's fully customizable. If you want more pastas or you want more sourdough bread, you can customize that to get only the things that you want. So that is super helpful to keep your house stocked up with the things that your family or you actually want to eat. A lot of us are trying to be healthier, and you're trying to feed a family too. This kind of helps to bridge that, so you can make whatever you want to make, but then serve this on the side and turn any meal into a really family-friendly meal, and make sure that even your picky eaters have something to eat. It's a really useful tool for feeding my family, and I know you're gonna love it too. You can go to the link in my description box.
Head to wildgrain.com/healthyelizabeth30 and use code healthyelizabeth30.
And that's gonna give you $30 off and free croissants for life, and they're so good. And thanks so much to Wild Grain for sponsoring this video.
So I let the roast cook for about 6 hours on high, and the broth that it makes is basically like the most delicious French onion soup you've ever had. I could honestly just scoop this up in a bowl and serve it like that, but I love that it has the meat, and this meat was so soft. I don't even think you could tell by the footage here how soft it was, but it was falling apart. And then I add that all back into that French onion broth, and this could be just like a bowl of soup right here. It's amazing. But I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of pasta, so I'm just boiling up those Wild Grain frozen pasta noodles that are so delicious. These are seriously like our favorite noodles. My kids love these, and so do I. And I love that they only take literally like 6 to 8 minutes and they're done. So I just boil those up, and then I put them straight into the slow cooker and just toss everything together. And there's actually another option here. You could even add in a little bit of sour cream or Greek yogurt and make it almost like a stroganoff too, but we honestly love the broth. This is just so good like this. And then I just sprinkle it with a little bit of dried parsley and a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan on top. And this feels like the most delicious restaurant dinner. It took no time at all. This was seriously the easiest meal to make. And even though this is more of a comforting meal, it's still so healthy because all of the ingredients are really minimal. I'm using grass-fed beef, and it's just really simple, and it still beats eating out and eating those processed things and all the ingredients that can be hiding in different foods that we eat. You could pair it with a little bit of cabbage salad for some raw greens and apple cider vinegar.
Tonight I'm making a really quick and easy ramen style soup, and it's gonna have veggies and miso, and it's incredibly easy to make. It comes together in like 20 minutes, maybe even like 15, and I know my kids will gobble this up. It is delicious and comforting and perfect for these cold days. So this is the ramen I like to use. It's a millet and brown rice ramen, definitely less processed than the usual stuff, so I'm gonna use this. It's also gluten-free, and then coconut aminos to kind of give it that Asian-y flair, and a little bit of sweetness too, just kind of balances out how savory this is. And then I like to use a good organic miso. I always look for organic whenever I'm using anything with soybeans. I have some shiitake mushrooms here, and I'm gonna throw in some frozen broccoli and a few snow peas as well.
You can use any kind of miso that you like for this. You can use the red or the white. I'm using the red one today, and it's really good in this. I love that it has a little bit more depth of flavor, I think. And all I'm doing is putting a couple tablespoons of that into a glass measuring cup, just an oversized one, because what we're going to want to do is add some of that hot steamy broth to the miso, just a little bit of that broth, and mix that together to dissolve the miso, and then I'll add the whole thing that I mixed together back into the soup and just let that finish cooking and infusing into our delicious broth. Now, to make it have even better flavor, I love taking just a couple tablespoons of coconut aminos. You could add even like a quarter cup depending on how sweet you want it, and I add that into the broth, and the coconut aminos has so much flavor in it and sweetness that it just balances out really well with the veggies. And I added in my mushrooms and my snow peas, and I actually didn't realize until I sat down to eat this that I forgot to add the frozen broccoli, so go ahead and add that in too.
So now once I put my veggies in the pot, I like to go ahead and turn off the burner. That way they don't get overcooked, and then when I go to put in the brown rice and millet pasta that's already been boiled, I boil it separately. That way all the starch from the brown rice doesn't get into the broth. So I'm gonna strain that off. You can even give them a little rinse so they don't stick together a lot, and then I turn off that broth that's been simmering until those vegetables are just tender. They kind of just steam a little bit in the broth, and then I turn it off. That way when I put in the ramen noodles, it doesn't get overcooked. So you can do it that way and just put the ramen noodles in with the broth, or you could keep the noodles on the side in like a little dish and then just put them in individual bowls. So either way, you just want to make sure that stuff doesn't get overcooked.
Once my pot of water comes to a boil, I'm going to add in those ramen noodles, and they just cook in like 5 minutes. They're super fast, and then I'll drain those off, and I like to give them just a quick rinse under cold water to kind of stop that cooking process so they don't get overdone. And then I'm also taking a little chunk of ginger that I peeled with a spoon, and I'm just going to put that into the broth and let that kind of infuse. I like doing that versus chopping it up because I think it just melts into the broth better. You get all the flavor without having any sort of chunks of ginger that you have to pull out. So I'm putting this directly into the noodles because the whole family's home today, so we're all going to eat it, and you can serve it with a little bit of hot sauce, sesame seeds, and a few green onions on top.
Tonight for dinner, I'm keeping it really easy, and I'm making some beef and rice bowls. I always have ground beef defrosted in my fridge, and then recently I've been using some microwavable rice. They come in like brown rice, jasmine rice. You can get them now even at Costco, and so I don't love heating it up in the microwave, but sometimes I need something really quick, and normally the rice and the brown rice that I use takes like 40 minutes on the stove, so I'm not gonna do that today. I'm gonna use that kind of frozen hack brown rice because that just makes it so easy. But you could also swap that out just for leftover rice that's in your fridge, and then serve this delicious ground beef that has like kind of an Asian inspired sauce on the top, or I think it's Korean. And then really quickly, I'm gonna put together a cucumber salad here, and I'm gonna make it Asian style too, so it can go on top of the beef and rice bowls. I love like Asian food or Thai food or any sort of takeout, and I love that it's mostly just meat and vegetables. I love making that kind of stuff at home because I can use all my same sauces like coconut aminos, good oils, just all the good stuff. So when you make it at home, it really is a lot healthier, but you still get all those delicious flavors. So here's what I'm using. I've got rice vinegar, I have my coconut aminos, We're gonna do a little dash of sesame oil, and then I'm also using sesame seeds. These are just white ones. You could use black ones too though. That would be so pretty in this. I have a little bit of garlic. We'll do some salt, of course, and then to make it a little bit spicy and to add just a lot more flavor, I'm gonna do a little bit of chili crisp or chili oil, but you could leave that out and either do red pepper flake if you want it to be spicy, or just leave it out completely and just make it a mild version, so get rid of that. And then coconut sugar just to sweeten things up a bit. And what I love about this is, even though I'm getting out a lot of ingredients here to make the cucumber salad, I'm gonna be using all the same ingredients to make the sauce for the ground beef. So I'll just use it here first and then move over to the stove and make the sauce for the beef. I have one huge English cucumber, so I already washed it and I'm gonna leave the skin on, and I'm just gonna thinly slice this.
This cucumber salad is something that comes together so quickly. You could really make it any night of the week. And I love that it's just simple ingredients, but it's so flavorful. And you can even let it sit in the fridge for like 30 minutes and kind of marinate in the dressing that we're gonna make for it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some coconut aminos. I'm just using about 2 teaspoons of it. We don't need a lot of sauce in this because the cucumbers release water, and so we don't need that much. Then I'm doing about 3 teaspoons of rice vinegar. I try to buy a nice organic rice vinegar. And then I'm also going to do just a little bit of chili oil, and I like to do 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. And then for the chili oil, I really just do a tiny amount. You only need about 1 teaspoon or half a teaspoon. You don't want too much, just depending on your taste. You can change how much you use. And I like to scrape it first and then mix it together and get the chili crisp out that way. So I have some of the oil in there too, because it's really flavorful. Then I'm just doing about 3 teaspoons of coconut sugar, and then I'm doing about a teaspoon or so of salt. And then I also like to throw in just a few sesame seeds. That adds a little bit of flavor and just texture. It makes it look really pretty. So I'm going to sprinkle in about 2 teaspoons of sesame seeds, whisk that all together, and then put those cucumbers in there to marinate.
I almost forgot my garlic, so I'm gonna crush it a little bit, but then I'm gonna use my microplane because I'm gonna use that again when I make the sauce for the ground beef, because we're gonna grate up garlic but also ginger. So you could crush your garlic, but then you have to dirty up your garlic crusher anyway. So I figured, since I'm already using my microplane for the ginger, I'm gonna go ahead and just grate in the garlic.
Now I'm moving over to the stove to get started on the Korean ground beef for the rice bowls. My family loves a lot of grass-fed ground beef, but you can definitely use ground chicken or ground turkey, so feel free to swap that out here. So I'm getting my cast iron skillet heated up over medium-high heat. You want to make sure it's nice and hot so we can get it nice browning on the ground beef. And I have 2 pounds of grass-fed ground beef that I'm going to use. I buy the 85%. I like it to have plenty of fat content in there because there's lots of omega-3s in there, and that will keep us full. I'm taking a little bit of ginger and garlic and just going ahead and grating that on my microplane. And then in my skillet, I like to put just a little bit of avocado oil to get that going so that nothing sticks. It just helps it when the ground beef hasn't really rendered its fat yet. And then I'm starting on the dressing or the sauce that we're going to be using to coat the beef. I'm doing a mixture of a tiny bit of coconut sugar. You actually don't want to put as much as I put. I kind of changed my mind on it, and I wish that I had put less. We're going to do a smaller amount of coconut sugar, and then I did coconut aminos, rice vinegar, just like the cucumber salad, sesame oil, and then I'm also using some Korean chili paste. I don't know how to pronounce that, so if you know how to pronounce that, put that in the comments, because I want to know how to properly say cultural foods. That drives me crazy when I don't know how to say them correctly. So if you know, put that down below in the comments. I would love to hear it. Then I'm going to add the minced ginger and minced garlic into that sauce and whisk it together. And then we're going to pour this over the ground beef after it's cooked all the way through. Before I put the sauce on there, I'm just throwing in some of those green onions, especially the white part of green onions. I always like that to be just a little bit cooked, and then I'll leave some of the green tops for topping the bowls. And then we'll just let that sauce simmer on the beef for a few minutes, like 3 to 4 minutes, just until it thickens up and becomes this beautiful sauce. Then I just pour all that sauce over it. I'm adding in a few slices of ground ginger too, just to give that sauce a little extra kick. I'm stirring it all together, just let that simmer, and you'll see how it thickens up on the beef and just becomes this beautiful saucy beef. We're going to use this to top those rice bowls, and then I'll also put the cucumber salad on top. And you can add sesame seeds to this as well. I love adding it to any of these kinds of dishes because it just goes so well. But if you don't want to have those, you can definitely omit it. But they also have good health benefits, so I put as many of those as I can. I like to serve this with a little butter lettuce on the side for a little crunch, or if you're low carb, you could even do it just as a lettuce wrap. It is so delicious, and I guarantee you, your whole family or whoever you're making this for will absolutely love it. You can also meal prep it and keep it in the fridge. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Don't forget to check out Wild Green. I'll leave my link down below in the description so you can get $30 off your first box. Thanks so much for joining me in the kitchen.